All right, well, I'm going to slowly get started. Thank you all for joining today. I'm going to go through, I've got a list of things about the gradebook, setting up your gradebook to do the grades you want. We'll talk about different ways you can view the gradebook, different ways you can display the gradebook for your students. And then once I'm done with that, we'll just kind of have an open lab. So if you do have questions about something else, we'll try to get those answered for you. So I think my list of topics, this will be a little shorter than last time probably for those of you that attended last time. So I should have plenty of time to answer unrelated questions if you have some. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And again, if you need me to repeat something or slow down, or if you have a related question, feel free to unmute your microphone and interrupt me, okay? So the first thing, if you want to get your grades set up correctly, if we go into the gradebook, let's look at the gradebook settings here. And the first thing you want to do is kind of set up how you're going to compute the grade for your class. If you're starting a new class from scratch, there's only one gradebook category, the default category. So the first thing you're going to do is add whatever categories you're using. So I'll just kind of walk through that. I typically have a homework category. Somebody rang the doorbell. Let me answer that real quick. Okay, I usually have a homework category, exams. You might have a quizzes category or a project. I don't know. Let's just add all of those. So you just add your categories here, and then put in your category weights. So I'm no longer going to assign any weight to the default category. There's no way to delete that, but if you have it with a weight 0, it shouldn't hurt anything. Let's say I want homework to be 10%, exams, I don't know, 60%, quizzes 20%, and then what's left? 10%, project 10%. So I'll set up the category weights like this. There's some other things here. If you wanted to hide one of these categories, you could hide it. I'm not sure why you'd want to do that. Collapsed and expanded. Just expanded, it means when the students view their gradebook, like it's going to show all the homework columns. If you change that to collapsed, they would have to click on the homework column to then display all the homework columns. So I usually just leave those expanded. I think it's easier for students. If you are a person that does all your grades by points, you can set it up to do points. If you use percents, you can set it up to do percents. So the good thing is, however you set up your grades, this will do it whichever way you want, okay? And again, you can calculate based on points or you can calculate based on percents. So if you're a point person, you can set it up to do points. If you're a percent person, you can set it up to do percents. If you want to drop their lowest quiz score, then in the quiz category, I can use this feature to drop the lowest score. Okay? If you wanted to drop their lowest 5 homeworks, you could do that. So if you're somebody that drops the lowest something or other, you can set that up right off the bat. This can be the first thing you do when you set up a new class, is set up how you're going to have those grades calculated. Okay? Now, you're going to save those changes, and then honestly, this doesn't do you any good unless you actually put your assignments into those categories. Okay? So first you're going to have to create the categories, which is what I just did. And then the second thing you're going to want to do is use the mass change. I'm going to go into mass change assessments, and we need to make sure that all of our assessments are put in the appropriate category. Okay, so right now everything is checked. I want to make sure that all of my homework assignments go in the homework category. So I'm just going to go in here and unclick everything that isn't a homework assignment. I've got like some exam. I have an exam and a test. I'm going to uncheck those. I have all my homeworks checked. I'm going to go over to change settings, and we're going to put those in the gradebook category homework. Okay, so right down under the core options. And while you're in here, you can set up all of your other homework settings as well. But I just wanted to point out this one. Everything is going to be in that default category, which doesn't count unless you assign it to a different category. So I'm going to put all my homeworks in the homework category, and I'm going to save apply changes. And what you'll notice in the gradebook now, if I go back to the gradebook, notice all these homework assignments are now green, and the homework category is green. So that shows that all of these homework assignments are now going to be in that homework category, which is weighted at 10%. So you can kind of double check to make sure you have everything in the right category by doing this. Okay. And just to show you another category, I'll go in and put the tests in the test category. So I'm going to uncheck all of these. I'm going to check my exam and my test. I don't know why I named those different, but this is just a practice course. I'm going to put those in the test category or the exams category. And I'm going to apply that change. And now if I go back into the gradebook, you can see now that exams is now green, the green one. And I've added test and exam to that exam category. And all of my homeworks are pink. And notice the homework category is colored pink. Okay. I have one sort of assignment that isn't in a category. So notice it's still in default. So that's not going to count. If I want this to count as a quiz, then I would go in and add it as a quiz. Okay.
Any questions so far?
I have a quick question, please, Seth.
Sure.
If you have a class that you've already created in
Yep.
the old format and you transfer it to the new format, will these because I know you said the settings change, will this change also? Will we have to go back and reset those?
You definitely want to go back and check it. I don't know. I think your gradebook categories might carry over, but the assessment settings don't. So you probably at least need to do the step where you assign everything to the appropriate category.
Thank you.
But you're going to be redoing your settings anyway, so just make sure you don't forget to do that one. But I think your gradebook categories probably do carry over. But I don't remember because I haven't done that in a while.
They did for me, Seth.
They did? Okay.
Yeah, and actually a lot of the assignment settings actually clicked over. It's just ones that were on the edge that it wasn't sure what to do with those.
Yeah. So it's definitely something you want to check the first time you copy an old course into the new. You definitely want to check it, and you might find that most of it is carried over. But there will be some things that don't, so just make sure you go through all that one more time. And then when you copy a course that is in the new version, again, everything will copy over just fine. Okay.
Awesome. That was my next question. Is like it's just from the transferring from the old to the new that we just need. We can check everything, but then once we've created a brand new template for ourselves, when we go from new to new, we don't have to.
Nope. Everything should be fine. Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's just something you want to double check the first time you go from old to new. All right. Let me do one other thing in this grade book. Let's say you're going to give a paper and pencil test. So again, you're probably not going to do that in the summer or maybe even the fall, but let's fast forward to spring. Hopefully you can give a paper and pencil test. That's going to be an offline grade. So right here, the first thing you'll see is offline grades. I'm going to go to manage. And right now I don't have any offline grades, so I'm going to add one. And let's say I'm going to call this midterm exam. I'm going to make it worth 100 points. And again, the key thing is you need to put it in a category or it's not going to count towards their grade. So make sure you put it in the exams category. Okay. And then make sure the default is counting gradebook. But if this was like an extra credit assignment, you can count it as extra credit. So probably that's all you need to do. So again, I gave it points. I put it in the correct category and I'm going to submit that. And now notice this midterm exam, it was put in the green category with my other exams. Okay. Then once you've given this test and once you've collected them and graded them, all you do to add the grades, you'll go to isolate here. So once everybody's taken the test, you'll click on this little link that says isolate and your class list will be here and you can just type in their grades. This is a small class because I couldn't get anybody else to join it last minute. But you can just type in all their grades here. You can even say nice job or or not great if they didn't do great. Don't lie to them. Not great. see me during office hours, you know, all the kind of things you can give them feedback here if you want. And then once you hit submit, then I might as well assign grades for this. Adam, you'd be lucky to get 25 on this probably. I wrote the test, so I got 100, and I don't know Jeff. I'll assume he does a good job. So I'm going to submit that, and then you can see that those grades show up in the grade book now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I have a question. I would like to do participation for my students, right? And participation will be not in MOER. So
Yep.
I can do what you've done, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I have to create category in Gradebook, and it will count in the Gradebook, correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah, you could add a category. Yeah, so you can go back into the settings and add a participation category. And then you're going to basically add that as an assignment. You're going to put participation points. It's going to be an offline assignment. So you're going to add it the way I just did that test. You would add that as an offline assignment, and then you'll go in there and give them points for that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's how you add offline stuff. Let's talk about view settings. So another thing you'll see if I click on the settings here, you can click on view settings. So this is basically how both you and students will view the gradebook. So the default gradebook display it puts everything in order by due date. If you wanted to change that, then there's a whole bunch of other options here, but typically I like everything to go in by the due date. You can group it by category first, or you can ungroup it by category. So if you want everything to appear just by due date, you would want to uncheck that. If you want like the test by due date first and then the homework by due date, then you would want those grouped by category. Default user order, you probably want alphabetical order. Oh, so yeah, the only choice is you can arrange them by last name, or if you want to try to run 2 sections of the course in the same MOER course, you can do that as well, and then it'll divide them up by section. So like if you're teaching 2 of the exact same courses, you can dump everybody into the same MOER course if you want. And then this will split up your gradebook into 2 parts based on who's enrolled in which section. Okay. Again, you can show the scores as points or percents. That's just your preference, however you want to do that. Default show, if you want everything to show, you would put all items. If you just want it to show things that they've done and that are available, you can do that. That's up to you. Locked students, if a student withdraws from your class, I usually go ahead and lock them out of the course. That kind of lets them know that they've successfully withdrawn from the class. If you want them to no longer show up in the gradebook once you've withdrawn them, you would want to put hide. Otherwise, if you leave it show, they'll still show up in the gradebook, but they'll be grayed out. So if it annoys you for them to still show up, you can just put hide. So I usually like to hide them. Even if you hide them from the gradebook, you can still go back and see what they've done if you want to. The colorization is the really neat thing, and this is kind of one of the advantages of the MOER gradebook.
Sorry, how did you add students? You didn't show how you add students to hide all of them.
The students should be adding themselves in the course when they enroll in the course, but they can't. I don't know. Maybe I'm not understanding the question. I don't think you would ever add students. They add themselves.
No, I know that, but you said locked students. So if you want to drop the student and you lock it, but
yes.
Where is the option to click on the name of the student?
Oh, sure. You would go to the roster.
Okay. Yeah.
And you would click on the student. And if I want to lock that student out, I would just check this box. So I can just show you that. I'll lock Adam out. And now you can see in the gradebook, if I go to the gradebook, he shows up and he's crossed out.
Okay.
And that's because I have it set up to still show those students. If you want to just automatically hide those students, you would select hide.
Okay.
And then if you decide you made a mistake, you just click on his name again. You go to his info and you can uncheck that box. And now he's back in the class.
Okay.
Now, can't you also do it from right here where it says show locked?
Yeah, you can. But basically, that means every time you open the gradebook, you're going to have to keep changing this. If you change it in the view settings, it kind of changes it once, and you don't have to keep doing that. So that's kind of I think that's the difference. Colorization. So this is pretty cool. I usually set, and there's a lot of different options here. I like to set mine up. I like any scores under 50% to show up red and any scores over 90% to show up green. So this is how I usually do mine. So I'm going to show you what that does if I save that. Now in my grade book, anything that's red means the student has scored under 50%. Anything green, they've scored over 90%, and anything white is kind of in between. Let me show you what that looks like in a full course. So what this does, it gives me a quick snapshot of like how well my students are doing. So if I look at this and see mostly green, then I can tell my students, you know, keep up the good work. If I see a lot of red, then that might indicate I should have a talk with my students about, you know, like doing their homework. And if I see a lot of white, it just means students have kind of halfway done their homework, or that usually indicates students are waiting to the last minute and not finishing their homework. But it gives you just sort of a quick visual as to how your class is doing. If you don't like the multiple colors, then you just turn the colorization off. But that's kind of a neat option that I like to use because it gives me a quick look as kind of my class as a whole and how they're doing. I like to open that up and see a lot of green. Okay, so that was the, that was the colorization. This is just how you want to see the total columns, left or on the right. Average rows, top or bottom, that's up to you. What do you want to show your students? I usually just like to show students their past due score because otherwise they get really confused as to why their grade is too low. If you're showing students like their whole score, their grades are going to be really low because that's going to include all the zeros for the stuff that they haven't done yet. So I usually uncheck those and just show them their past due grade. That way they don't panic and wonder why their grade is so low. You might show them past due and attempted. That way if some of them have worked ahead, that'll be reflected in their grade as well. So if you have both of those checked, it'll show them both. But that's strictly what kind of totals you want to show your students. So I would probably argue that you don't want to use all because they're going to be asking you why their grade is so low. And you'll have to explain, well, because that's because you have a 0 on all these assignments you haven't done yet. Okay? So those are the view settings. I think that was all I wanted to say about the view settings. Another tip, let me go back into this other, oh no, I didn't want to change stuff on that class. I think I'm okay. Another tip, it can be kind of annoying when you view your grade book, and if I scroll over to see how my students did over here, I no longer have the students' names here. So if I see like a bad score right here on homework 8, I'm like, I wonder which student that is. I have to scroll all the way back over to see which student that was. You can actually lock the student names column in place. Right here it says toggles. If you lock the headers, so right under headers, if I switch locked, what that does is lock the names in place. So now when I scroll over, it keeps their names right there. And then if I see a bad score over here, I can still tell who it is. So that's something I didn't know about like the first 3 or 4 years I used this, and it was always really annoying. I couldn't tell which students were doing good and which students were doing bad because their names were gone. So again, if you go to toggles and you lock that in, oops, I shouldn't have done it twice. Let me unlock that. If you want to go back to normal, just unlock it. But if I lock that in place, that'll keep their names over there when you scroll over. So that was a tip I found really useful.
Why didn't they make that a default?
I don't know. That's a good question. But that's how you fix it. And the good thing is, This stays locked for a while, but I've noticed I think if you log out and log back in, you're going to have to redo that. But if you're somebody that like doesn't log out, you stay logged in, those will stay locked in each class that you select that in, unless you tell it not to. So it does tend to stay locked if you select that feature. So that's one nice thing, but I don't know why that's not the default. I don't know why anybody would want the names to disappear, but I guess, I don't know. You can show more if you have it unlocked, I suppose, because you're not, I did lose like 2 assignments worth by locking it. I can't talk today. All right, so let me go back. Okay, so one other thing I wanted to show you. If you use a lot of homework problems with, say, essay questions, or maybe some freehand drawing type questions, basically anything where the question isn't automatically scored, an easy way to check for that. So I put some in this homework assignment. So I'm going to click on my score on this homework assignment. I'm just going to click on, actually no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on isolate so I can see everybody's score. So I'm going to click on this isolate link. And what this will show everybody in your class. It'll show them their score on that assignment. It'll show you the last time they worked on that assignment. It'll show you how long they spent on that assignment. So that's kind of nice. You can see if they're spending as much time as they should be. It'll also show you feedback you've given. Okay, and then if I
have a question when you have a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that I was understanding that time spent. The
Yes.
time spent on the left is how long they had that assignment open, and in the parentheses is how long they were actually within the questions and answering them, correct?
Yes. So like if you're giving a test, you want to see that those are the same or like really close to the same. If you're giving a test and their time spent is 60 minutes, but the in questions is 10 minutes, that means they had other stuff open during the test.
Yes.
Yeah, so you want to see that the same. Now, if it's not a test, probably doesn't matter. I mean, our students, they might want to check some other things while they're in their homework, and that's not a big deal. If you see 5,000 minutes, it means they just left the assignment open when they went to bed, and then, you know, they came back the next day and it was still open. That's okay too. But on a test, you want to see those be the same. I will tell you, if you do the integration into Canvas, these are really messed up, so I wouldn't pay too much attention to those if you have your course integrated into Canvas. So
yeah, Seth, if I could ask you a question on that.
Yeah.
So on that one, time spent, I mean, it seems kind of tricky, because if they are looking at the questions and they're working most of them on paper, and then they just kind of put in the answer, wouldn't that kind of, isn't that a little bit deceptive?
No, I think the time spent is just going to measure the timestamp when they first opened the assignment to the last change. So basically this stopped on June 2nd, 9:02, and Adam opened the assignment 3 minutes prior to that. That's what that means. So even if they're working on paper, as long as they have it, it's going to measure from the first moment they opened the assignment until the last time they made a change. This is going to measure like when that window was open on their screen.
All right. The first one, the time spent?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So let's say the time spent says 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
The end question says 3 seconds.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I have a student, I experienced that with assignments this week, and I had never seen.
So what that might mean is they open the assignment, and so some students like to open the assignment and print it out, and then they'll just take it somewhere else and work on it, and then they just open the assignment again and type in the answers real quick. So it could be something like that, maybe.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Like I know I've had students tell me they print out the assignments, they do them while they're at work, which I don't know what kind of job that is where they can sit there and do their homework, but I kind of want a job like that.
Yeah.
And then like they'll come home, when they get home from work, they open it up and type in their answers.
And
So
and that's what and that's what I assumed it was. So I just wanted your feedback to see how you interpret it. Thank you.
I don't know if that's the only scenario, but that's one thing I would think of that would result in a readout like that.
I couldn't determine how to figure out if it was that they were like using a program and cheating or something, but
maybe I
don't know.
I don't think that's a guarantee, but maybe.
Thank you.
The other thing I wanted to show you was view item analysis. So there's a link right here at the top that says view item analysis. This is going to break it down. This is every problem that I have in the assignment. And there's a couple things you can see here. It tells you how much time they spent on each problem. So you can see if there was a problem where the average time was 20 minutes, that was a really hard problem that they struggled with. It'll also tell you what percentage of students clicked on the help features. It'll tell you the average score on that problem. So you can look at this before class. If you see a problem where only half of them got it right and they spent a whole lot of time working on it, that might be a problem you want to discuss in class. But the other thing I want to point out is you see a few of these are highlighted yellow. That indicates that that problem has something that you need to grade. So it might have been an essay question, or it might have been like a graph where you need to get in and grade it. So this one is highlighted, so I'm going to click grade. And what that's going to do is bring up every student in your class, how they responded to that one question. Okay, and then if you want to make it even quicker, if you want to just go ahead and throw out everybody that didn't do that question, you can click on this button right here that says hide unanswered questions, and it'll throw those out. So you're only looking at the ones that answered that question. So I can see that Adam didn't do this one, so I'm okay with giving him no points. And then I did do this one. So notice I've got the 4 points because I did the multiple choice part right, but I have 0 on the essay because my teacher hasn't graded that yet. So then as the teacher, you would read what the student wrote. You can give them their points right there. You can even give them feedback for that question. You know, I can put good job, or if they didn't do good, you could kind of explain maybe what a better answer would be and stuff like that. And then you could hit save changes. So it's very quick and easy to grade those questions that need to be scored by you, because it pulls up every student's answer, and you can just scroll down through them and give them all points and hit submit. And now that one is graded. Here's one. I thought there was a, where's that drawing one? I don't see that one now. I thought there was another one I was going to show you, but here's another one where I have an explanation. And again, you can give them points and then give them feedback there. If you don't remember like which assignments had that, when you look at your grade book, look for assignments where nobody got a perfect score. If you look down a column and nobody has a perfect score, that probably indicates that there's a problem in there that had an essay question or something like that. That needs to be graded by hand. Actually, maybe the exam is where I had that. Let me hit isolate on this exam and let me do the item analysis. Yeah, so here's one that was a freehand draw. I don't know why that one wasn't graded, but a freehand drawing is probably something you need to grade as well. So if I click on grade, here's a freehand drawing I did. And again, I can just grade that. I can give points if it's right. I can give partial credit, and I can give feedback. And then if I save changes, it'll update my score on that one. So then if I go back to the grade book, you can see that my grade went from 30 to 40. Okay. So again, the way I got there, I clicked on isolate, and whoop, I clicked on the wrong one. I clicked on isolate, and then I did the view item analysis. So again, that'll kind of break down every single problem. And if you see something highlighted, you can click on that and you can grade all of your students' responses to that problem at once. So that's kind of a quick way to do that. Okay. Does anybody else have questions about Gradebook? That was kind of the end of my list of things I was going to show.
Hey, Seth, this is Angie. In that assignment that you were just demonstrating, there was the show all tries button. can you show that to the instructors that if you have an assignment where they have multiple attempts at the same problem, you can see their answer for each of those attempts?
Oh, yeah. Help me where that is. I go back to that same problem.
Yes, so go to your grade item analysis, right, and scroll down. And, oh, you must have only had one try. Oh, there's one. See the show all tries right next
Oh, okay.
to it?
Yeah.
And so if they had,
Mhm.
you know, on attempt 1 answered the answer was 3, and then on
Yeah.
attempt 2 it was -3, and then on attempt 3 they answered the correct answer. You
Yeah.
can see each of the answers that they've submitted when you give them multiple attempts for a problem.
Yep. Good. Thank you. Yeah, you'll see what some students will do is like they'll answer the essay question and it'll give them 0 points. So then they think they did it wrong, so they'll try it again. And then finally they realize, oh yeah, my teacher has to grade that. But I've seen on some of these before, they've tried it like a whole bunch of times. And in the feedback, I'll be like, you were right the first time. Good job. But yeah, you can, if it's a problem with multiple attempts, you can see everything that they've tried on that problem.
Seth,
Yeah.
there's something else you can do in the grade book there if you go back to looking at each grade again.
Mm-hmm.
Go back where you were a minute, where you did the analysis.
Okay.
You can sort by the average score. You can sort by average
these are
time,
sortable, right.
incomplete, and
Yep.
average time.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
kind of nice.
That is nice. Yeah. Yeah. So all of these are sortable if you click on the heading. That's pretty cool too. So you can see which problem they tried the most and so on.
That also works for students. If they're looking in their grade book, they can sort by the scores.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. Yep. Yeah, that's cool. And that's not always obvious either because they don't look like links, but most of these column headings are sortable, which is cool.
Seth, when to click on right where you're at, there's that view score list right above the item analysis. I use that quite often to, you know, just to pull the individual scores. And then a lot of the questions we get from students and new instructors are, what does that IP mean? What does the UA mean? So if you can highlight at the bottom of every gradebook page, there's always those
legend.
The legend for LP means late pass, X or E, you've given them an exception or excused or so forth. And students do ask those questions. So just have them scroll all the way down to see that.
Yeah, and that brings up another point. If you give a timed test on MOER and a student runs up to their time without submitting their test, they do get kicked out. And the grade book, you'll see a 0, but it'll say UA next to it. And if you go ahead, if you're on this screen and you see that 0 UA, if you go ahead and click on their score, there'll be a little note. I don't think I have an example I can show you, but you'll see a little notation that says this student had 1 unscored attempt, and it'll let you go ahead and view all of the answers they had when their time went out. And then it'll even give you the option to go ahead and score that attempt. So, you know, and they'll probably message you and say, oh my gosh, I got kicked out and I got a 0, but I was so close to being done. You know, you can see everything that they entered, and you can go ahead and just score all of the problems that they had entered. So you can still give them a score even if they ran out of time. So that's an important one to look for too. If you have a
does that happen even if you've cut them off at the time? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I gave a test, like my final exam for spring. I had 2 students that had a 0 because they ran out of time, but in their score it had UA next to it, and I was able to go ahead and open up the answers that they had already typed in, and I was able to score those.
Okay. Huh.
No,
I thought when you said cut them off at the time limit that was it. They were cut off and it was closed.
Yeah, that's what I did say. It does close them off, and their score is going to be a 0, but but it'll say they had an unsubmitted attempt, and you can score that one. But the default is not to score that one.
Good.
So you want to look for that.
So
Does that make sense?
So you would select their grade that says 0 UA.
Yes, I would click on that.
Open up
and
all
I-
of the exam questions for you, and then you can see which they had put answers in.
Yeah, it'll be like right here. There'll be a note right here that says student has 1 unscored attempt, and there'll be a button that says view attempt or some. I don't remember exactly what it was because I didn't take a picture. But if you click on that button, it'll show all of the answers that they put in, and there'll also be a button that says you can score that attempt.
Is that option available in the old version right now?
I don't know. I'm
Okay.
not sure.
Okay, I'll play with it. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, Andy said no. Okay.
No. Okay. Yeah. So that's a new thing. That's nice.
I have a basic question regarding Canvas and this more gradebook.
Yes.
This is an option beside Canvas, correct? Or
Yes.
the system changed more district-wide, or we can still use a Canvas?
Yeah, you can use more as your LMS as a standalone, or you can do the Canvas integration with more. And there are pros and cons to both of those methods, but both are acceptable.
So we have we can choose either Canvas or more, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. I mean, you probably want to run that by your department chair might have their own guidelines, so you might want to check with like your department chair. But you know, as a district, math instructors have the option to use more or integrate it into Canvas.
Okay.
And that's kind of up to the instructor preference. But check with your
language program, so might be different. But so this is mainly for math, correct?
Yes, it was designed for math, but there are people that use it for other courses as well. Like you could build any science course in here. I think there would be some advantages to doing that. Anything where you want like randomization of numbers, algorithmically generated assessment questions, this would be a good system to use for that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other gradebook questions? Oh, another thing I'll point out, let me see, I have the totals. Let me move the totals to the left here. So I'm going to go to the view settings. I'm going to put the totals on the left instead of the right, just so I can show you something. So when I log into my gradebook, I can see every student's weighted total. So this is their grade computed according to the category weights that I set up. And if you want to see where they stand right now, right here you have the option of what you want to show. If you want to see what their grade is actually right now, you want to switch that to past due. So it gives their score based on everything that's past the due date. If you have it passed and attempted, that's going to include things they maybe haven't done yet. So if you want to know where their grade, let me see if I can do that. Nope, I didn't want to do that. Okay. Yeah, never mind. I better not do that. So I don't want you to see student names. But if you want to get a quick look at where everybody is right now, you want to show past due, and that'll show you what their grades are right now. So that's another thing to that I wanted to point out. Okay. If you want to see like what their homework grade is only, you can choose category homework, and then you can choose past due to see whatever. Whoops. I don't have any homework past due in this class, so that's why it's not showing anything. But you have a lot of options to see how your students are doing on various types of assessments. Okay.
I have a question. It's sort of about the gradebook. This is the first time I'm teaching with a success specialist, and also some coordinators of a program. They want to be able to get in my class and see my class links for the virtual meets and stuff.
Yep.
I add them. Do I add them all as managed tutors? And what can they see? Can they see the whole class or just the gradebook? Or
I'm not sure because I haven't done that yet. That's something you'll have to do trial and error unless somebody else knows.
I was going to say we just experimented with that this semester over at PD. And do you want them to see the gradebook or no?
I guess for the success specialist, I wouldn't mind if she sees the gradebook, but for the coordinators, I feel like they're just trying to get in the class to access the virtual meets. I mean, I suppose they might want to see the gradebook to see how students are doing. I'm okay with that.
Okay, so for us, well, all right, so if you do not want them to see the gradebook, in each individual assignment, there is a setting that says Tutor Access, and it lets them decide whether they should be able to see grades or not. So you may, that would be your kind of your decision. So if you have everything shut to off, then they can see all the names, but that's as far as they can go. But then aside from that, then they see everything else. And I'm trying to remember if they can even see, I believe they can see assignments that aren't available yet, kind of like a teacher. So if you have them open, opening for time for students, they can still see them even if the students can't. But aside from that, I think they don't have edit ability or anything of that nature.
Okay, great, thanks. But they can see my whole course and see all my blocks and my calendar.
Yes, I believe they can see everything, even if it's hidden to the students, they can still see it, I believe. And Angie might want to pop in too, we were doing this together, but I believe that's what I'm remembering.
Thank you, David.
Another thing I had written down to maybe talk about if people were interested, I experimented with some group assessments. I could maybe talk about that real quick. So what a group assessment is, you can put students in groups and have them work on an assignment together. And the way it works is one student would submit the assignment for everybody. And as the instructor, when I grade that assignment, I would just grade one student's assignment and it would assign that grade to everybody. So that's something you can do too. It might be something where you have a group project and maybe you just have like an assessment where it's just a file submission. And basically one member of the group would submit the file for the group. And then I would go in the grade book and I would just, any student in the group, I can open it up and look at their file. And then once I give a score, it assigns that score to everybody in the group. So I don't know if that's something you're interested in. Is anybody interested in that? It would take me maybe 5 minutes to show you.
Before you navigate away, there was a request in the chat.
Sure.
If you could, about weighted grading before we move too far away from that. They were just wondering if you could show how to actually set the settings in the gradebook to do weighted grading.
Yes. Okay. So I clicked on Gradebook. I click on Settings, and these are your categories right here. This is where you enter your categories, and this is where you assign the weight. So that was like the first thing I did. I don't know if that answers your question, but you can. That's where you would assign those. Is that what you were asking?
Seth, I believe that was the question. I just want to remind everybody on here that we are going to push out the recording of this, so you can pause, rewind, and replay at your own speed if anything went a little too fast for you.
Yes, I'm sure a lot of this was too fast. I'll just talk about the group assignments real quick. If you do want to give like a group project or something, the first thing you're going to do is assign groups. And that's going to be right here on the left under Tools. If I have to click on More or else it doesn't show up. And you're going to click on Groups. And then I'm going to add a new set of groups. And so let's say I'm going to give, so you can see from one of my old classes it copied. Let's say I'm going to give 3 group assignments throughout the course. So I might call the first one Group Project 1. And I'm going to create that group. And then when I click on this link, this is where I assign students to that group. And this is going to look weird because I don't have a lot of students in this class. But let's say I want to put Adam and Jeff in a group. And I'm going to add them to a new group. And I'm going to give that a group name. I'm going to call that Group 1. I'm going to create that. So now you can see Group 1 has Adam and Jeff. And then I'm going to add myself to a separate group. I'm going to call that Group 2. I'm going to create that. So this is just for Group Project 1. When I go to make a second group, it'll give me the option to copy the same groups if you want to keep the groups the same, or you might just start over with a new set of groups for the next group project. But right now I have my students in 2 groups. And then what I would do is I'm going to go ahead and I would need to create that assessment. So I'm just going to kind of go into this block. I'm going to create a new assessment. Or let's just make homework 11 a group assessment. So I just have this blank homework assignment here. I'm going to go into the settings, and I'm going to make this a group assessment. And right down at the bottom is the group assessment options. And I'm going to change that to instructor created groups, and use group set. I'm going to call this group project 1. And then, you can set the maximum however you want. You also have the option to let students create their own groups. That can be a little dicey. I probably recommend you create the groups, but that's up to you. Now, if I save changes, homework 11 is now a group assignment. Okay. And if I submit a score for one of the students, it's going to give that score to every student. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Go ahead.
How did you start it? The very first step to get to the menu you got.
Yeah. So it was under tools. I clicked on more and I clicked on groups.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And then one thing you might do, so I did this in one of my online courses for spring. So you go ahead and make this group assignment. You put them in the groups. One thing you might want to do, instead of grading those right away when they submit them, I made like a little Google form. It was just sort of a group survey. And I asked them, once they submitted their group assignment, if everybody could fill out the Google form. And the Google form basically just said, which group were you in? And then I had a multiple choice that said, everybody in my group participated and it went well. The other option was there were some members of my group that did not participate. And then I gave them like a dialogue box where they could name names, so to speak, if they wanted to. And some students did and some students didn't. But if you have like 3 students in the group that said this person didn't participate, then you might not want to give them the same score as everybody else in the group. But this is the reason why you want to have them fill out the survey before you assign a grade. Once you assign a grade on a group assignment, there's no way after the fact to change one student's grade. Okay, if you want to take one student and change their grade on the group assignment to 0, there's no way to do that. It changes everybody's group assignment to 0. So if you're going to do something like that, give them a day to fill out the group survey before you assign grades. And then if you find out that one student was named as not participating in the group project, what you would do is remove them from the group first and then grade the assignment. And to remove somebody from a group, I'm going to click on the group right here. And let's say everybody wrote in their survey that Jeff did not participate in the group. You're going to remove him from the group. You need to do that before you grade that assignment. That was something I learned the hard way because I was trying to stay ahead with grading. And as the group projects were coming in, I was grading them. And then I found out later one student didn't participate at all because all the members of her group said she didn't participate. And there was no way for me to give her like a 0 after the fact. So that's, if you want to try a group project, that's one thing I learned that I thought I would share. Make sure you remove non-workers from the group before you assign grades, if that makes sense. Does anybody have questions on that? Okay, any other questions I can answer for you?
Seth, there are some questions in the chat. Did you want me to dictate them to you?
Yes, yes, please do, because when I'm presenting, I can't see those.
Okay, so Dolores has some questions about, if I'm reading this right, if you're integrating with Canvas, should you do groups in Canvas or groups in More?
That I don't know.
Yeah, so I was going to say we have just added to the workshops, I'm trying to look up the date, that there is a Canvas integration workshop because we had so many questions. And that's going to be led by Adam and Kristen. I think Adam is on our call. Adam, do you have any comments on this specific question, or if it'll be covered in the other workshop?
I actually have never tried it either, so I have no idea. I'll tell you the integration with Canvas, it's nice, I like it, but I find there's a lot of compatibility issues on some of these things that you may want to try. So I've never tried it, and I have no idea.
Yeah, that might be something nobody's tried yet. So that might be a wait and see.
Okay.
I think July 10th was that.
Is
I think was the workshop. I think.
Okay.
But I might be wrong.
All the workshops for MOER are on the MCLI page, and when I send out the recording of this to our MOER team leads at each college, I'll include all the new upcoming workshop links for you guys too. Seth, another question is about how to assign students to certain sections within the course. I do know that we were planning to go through like the roster features in one of the future courses too.
Yeah.
And then what else is in here?
And that's not something I'm not sure how. That's something I'm not sure how to do either, because I don't put multiple sections in the same course. But I know you can, and I know you can keep them separate in the gradebook. I'm just not. I'm not entirely sure how to do
If you
that.
want to screen share, I can walk you through that right now. So if you click on your roster,
Yeah.
and then you can
Assign sections right here.
assign sections right there. Click on that. And then I type in, so if I'm teaching 2 college algebra courses and one of them meets on Monday, Wednesday, and one of them's on Tuesday, Thursday. Now, you would have to have the same, these students are going to see the same content and the same due dates. But you can say, you know, if all of your assignments are due on Friday, no matter what time the course meets, you can just put them all in one course and then sort them by section number. So this is part of your, yes, and then you can, absolutely.
And this is a sortable column, or you can just show one section at a time if you want.
Yes.
Or if you click on this, it'll sort it by section. So yeah, there's all of those options there.
And then you can also do that in an individual student. So if you click on like Adam as your student and then go to the change info, you can type in their section number there as well.
Yep, good.
Okay.
And by the way, while I'm here, since I'll just point this out, if you have a student with accommodations from your Office of Disabilities, whatever it's called on your campus, so if a student gets double time, this is really cool. If you go in their roster and change this to 2, this gives them double time on every single timed assignment in your course. You don't have to do that for every single assignment. You can set this once for the student and be done. So that's a really nice feature. Any quiz or test that has a time limit, Adam now has double time, and you can see the clock right here. It shows you that he has extra time on every timed assignment. So it's very easy to give your students those accommodations.
Hi, Seth. Homeworks too, or only quizzes and tests? Double time.
Anything that has a time limit. If your homework doesn't have a time limit, then it's not gonna pick that. It doesn't change due dates or anything like that. It's just strictly for timed assignments. They're gonna get double time.
Okay,
or
thank
you. And a half or whatever you give them.
Hi, Seth, it's Daphne. Do you mind running through? You click on the name and then change student info?
Yep.
I was going to email you about that.
Yep. It's change user info. Or if you go to the roster, and click on a name, it automatically takes you there. If you're in the gradebook and click on their name, you have to do change info. So there's two ways to get there.
Great. Thank you. That's wonderful.
Does anybody know what the difference is in section and code?
I don't know.
I don't ever use code. I'm not sure what the difference would be.
I use code when I drop somebody. So for section, if I have multiple sections in code, I'll put withdraw 35, June 6th. And then when I lock them out in the roster, you could still see why they were withdrawn, but they're still remaining in the section that they were enrolled in.
Right. That's how I've used it. Just wondered.
Yeah, that's how I've used it.
I use the section for their grade.
Yeah, the cool thing is you can use it for whatever you want. I could have like a red team and a blue team. I could, I could assign some people with code red and some people with code blue if I wanted to do
Yeah, you can do anything you want.
Yeah, I think that's really just whatever you want it to be.
It's nice.
Other questions or?
I'm sorry, Seth. So, so if you use that code optional, it's basically kind of a notes place. Is that how people are using that?
I mean, I think you would use it for any way you wanted to like sort students. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And
So
in
if
the
you can
roster,
think of another
it'll
way
show
you
as an
want.
additional column. So if you put
It's an
something in there, if you
additional.
go to the roster, you'll see it.
Okay, so it shows up as an additional column when you do the roster.
In the
Okay,
roster.
great, thank you.
There. Now I have a code column. And it's a sortable column too. So yeah, you can if there's any different way you'd want to sort your students, that's what you could use that for. Yeah, cool.
Seth, how does the extra credit work within the gradebook?
It'll just, I don't know that there's not really a separate category, but let me just make one of these extra credit.
It'll just show EC on it.
Yeah, that's exactly. So like if I change this test, if I go into the settings, whoops. Yeah, if I go into the settings, I'm going to go to, I think it's under grading. I can change this to count as extra credit. If I save that, now you'll see in the gradebook that it counts as extra credit. So then if a student earns points in that category, then you'll see that they might have over 100% for that category if they've earned extra credit points. So that's what that does.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Seth, before anybody, because we're hitting our 1 hour mark, I did put a link. I put 2 links in the chat. You'll have to scroll back up a little bit to get to the link for the feedback form that you had mentioned you wanted people to fill out, if you want to explain that. Then I also put a link into our next workshop, which is 2 weeks from today, and it's going to cover a lot of the questions we started to dabble in at the end of this session about what you can do in the roster, how to change the time multiplier, and our title for that one is how to be more efficient and work smarter. So those couple clicks that can do multiple things in your math assessments. And then I'll put one more link in there for just the MCLI page with the description of all the remaining workshops. But did you want to mention your feedback form?
Yeah, I was asked to take attendance. So if you could, this will only take you like 30 seconds. If you could click on this link, like I said, it won't take you any time at all. It'll just have a record of your attendance. And it does give you a chance if you want to give us feedback or suggestions for future workshops, you can feel free to fill that out, or you can leave it blank. But if everybody could just click on that real quick and fill that out, that would be helpful. Thanks, Angie. Anybody else have?
Where is the link?
It's in the chat.
Oh, I see it right above presenter, Seth.
Yeah. And
okay. It's different from the link that you just showed, and I thought, oh, maybe it's a different one.
No, Marianne,
yeah, she's put 3 links in.
Form is the first link. Like, so the timestamp for the attendance and feedback form is at 1:46 p.m. So if you scroll back there, and then the last 2 links are just links to our MCLI workshop events.
There's one. The only link I see is the one that says Angie Cristiano link. Meet Google. I don't see any other links to do.
I'll copy it again.
Yeah, or just scroll up. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you scroll up, you
or
can
is
see
it the one that says take attendance? There, I found it.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you. Sorry.
Is there anything else anybody wants to see real quick?
I have a question. So how do we know we use old or newer version of MOER? By looking, by colors, how do we know which one we are using?
Say it again. I didn't hear the first part.
So I think she's asking about the colors. Can you show how to do the color?
No. We have older version of MOER and newer one, right?
Yes.
Or we automatically in new version now. If I open my MOER, right?
Yes.
Am I in newer version or old one?
Yeah, so nothing has changed with the gradebook. So everything I showed you today is good for old and new version.
No, I think she's asking.
I think she's asking about the old version of MOER versus the new version of MOER and how she knows which one she's had.
Right.
Oh,
exactly.
if you're not, okay. So the best way to determine if you're using the old version or new version is to open up a homework assignment. So if you open up a homework assignment, if the background is white and it has like this drop-down menu, that's the new version.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have, when you take your old class and convert to a new one, how do we switch to newer version?
So that was actually covered in our first workshop that we have a recording for. So if you missed the workshop, that was, it was probably 2 weeks ago, but 2 to 3 weeks ago, we do have that recording. And again, you can access that. Alina, I know you're at PD, so I can send that out to you again. But that, when you set up a new course, there's a selection that you will click if you choose to go to the new interface or the new look.
Yeah, I can show you real quick. So I'm copying an old course. Oh, wait, did I miss it?
Yeah.
I think I missed it. Yeah, I missed it. Oops. I thought it was one of the course items, copy my course. So I'm going to copy one of my old courses. I'm going to select course items. I'm going to copy the whole course.
Seth, at the bottom of that page, it's saying it's going to be auto converted.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
Oh, there used to be a checkbox here. Did we get rid of that?
Apparently.
David,
so we no longer have a choice. It's going to be new or nothing.
Right. I saw auto converted on mine when I was copying.
Yeah, this has changed, so I don't know.
They just ran an update, right? 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So
that might have been part of the new update.
What does copy rubrics mean?
If you've set up a rubric in your course, it'll copy that as well. A rubric is an extra feature you can set up. I think it's under Tools, maybe. Yeah, under Tools, you can set up a rubric.
Oh, okay.
I've never done that, but that just means it'll copy it if you make a copy of the course. All right, are we out of time? Yeah, we're out of time. So thank you all for coming. I hope you found something useful. And if you could please fill out that real quick attendance survey, I would appreciate it.
So Seth, just so you know, if you do go into a new course and you click on add a new course instead of copying stuff in, if you click on add a new course and then you click copy one of my courses, that box is still there for people to use.
So you can still make an old version. You just do a new course and then do the copy in your new course.
So if you go to add a new course and then you click copy from a colleague's or my courses, you find your course, there'll be a box that says, this course is in the old system. Do you want to upgrade or stay? And then you click or unclick that box, depending on which one you want to do.
Okay, that's what I was doing wrong. So instead of copy course, do add a new course and then choose to make a copy after that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Enjoy
Thanks, Seth. Appreciate you.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Wait, Seth, I have a quick question. Is almost everybody
Sure.
gone? Have you heard of jitsi.org for meetings like this?
No.
Would you check it out for me and see what you think? It's JITSI.
Okay.
Thanks. It's one I just ran across when I was looking for stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
And we're using Google Meet. Okay. Thank you.
I like using this for students because they have Gmail accounts, and I just feel like this is the easiest one for them to get into right away.
Right.
So,
I wish we had the ability to record.
Well, that is an ability, but the college hasn't paid for the upgrade to the G Suite that.
I know. I don't know why not.
So we need to. I've requested it a couple times, and I don't know. I think if more people request it, maybe they will. But it's something they haven't paid for yet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they're pushing WebEx, so whatever.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I like WebEx too. I just think it's easier for students to use this, and I think the video and sound quality tends to be better on this one.
I like Meet.
I feel like WebEx is not quite as good a quality, but that might just be me.
It's not just you. I've heard others.
And I don't want to say this while we're recording the session, but I will say we are in this session recording this session, even though we're in Google Meet. We're just using software on top of Google Meet to record. So
I should find out how you do that.
That's Mariana. Let's talk about that when it's not being recorded. I'll tell you what software I'm using.
Cool. Okay.
But, yeah. So I do know, like, for example, our Paradise Valley is getting us a site license for Camtasia, which would do this.
Screencast will too, won't it?
Exactly. But I will say, let's talk off camera. And I do have some open software that I've been really happy with.
All right. I'll contact you later.
Okay.